6, 8, 9, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. These are the stakes to make a world in which all of God's children can live, or to go into the dark. We must either love each other or we must die.
Welcome to Nuked Radio, a special edition for the 2-year anniversary of the Fukushima disaster, which is ongoing. I am your host, Christina Consolo, and with me today is a very special guest, Leuren Moret. Leuren is a geoscientist, atmospheric fallout expert, and outspoken critic of the use of depleted uranium. As an employee of Livermore Labs, she learned of the horrific power of nuclear weapons, which started her on a journey as a full-time researcher and expert witness to numerous litigation issues arising out of nuclear crimes. The focus of our discussion today will be the current status of Fukushima and the health effects that are occurring from the transport of radioactive particles and contamination in our air, precipitation, oceans, and food supply. Leuren, welcome back to the program.
Thank you so much, and I'm very happy to be on your program again. It's wonderful to do interviews with you, and thank you so much for asking me today.
Well, you have been exposing the fact that we have been nuclear guinea pigs since 1945.
That's right.
And I would like to start with the current status of the Fukushima plant 2 years into the accident.
It's not good for us, that's for sure. At first, when that happened on March 11th, 2011, it was a disaster that the world has never imagined was even possible. And what makes it worse, especially for me, is to understand very clearly that it was deliberate. I did a series of interviews, which I will send you the links, and you can post them on your site or do whatever you want to with them. And I was reporting who was involved, the politicians, the politics of vested interests, the international financiers. And of course, I had done extensive research and discovered the actual transmitter was at Tromsø in Norway. And that facility, that HARP facility, is owned by a consortium of countries. That would be England is number one, Norway, Sweden, Finland, China, Japan, and Germany. And this is part of a network of global transmitters with many, many, many bases in Antarctica. And that's very curious because Britain has 9, and that has never been revealed until about a week ago when the Daily Mail had photographs in a story on a portable Antarctic base which they can tow around behind some kind of propulsion vehicles if they want to move it around. It's kind of like a bunch of box cars, like a train. And also the U.S. has at least 3 bases in Antarctica. Russia has 7. The Japanese have at least 3. Probably Australia has some. And so we're beginning to understand now that this is a criminal cabal of countries and vested interests, individuals and corporations involved. And the hidden agenda, of course, which is so horrible to understand, is depopulation. And it's also to bring about a very, very major transformation, which is now happening, and that is to destroy the Western economy. And that would include Europe, North America, and Japan. And in order to pump China and India too. So what they're creating in China and India are middle classes who will be, they're huge countries with very large populations, and so it's a whole new market for the bankers to make loans, to cause wars, to sell food that they are now growing in third world countries. 70% of the almond crop from California, which is probably some of the best almonds in the world, is going to the new growing middle class in China and India. So there are many, many interested parties, invested interests, and of course this is all being carried out by the U.S. Navy and navies in other countries that are the top military echelon in terms of power and control, and also control of radioactive and nuclear materials and weapons. So what we know now, since those series of interviews, because people can listen to those and get background, but today what we want to do is to update people on the last year in particular, when more of the effects on the environment, on plants and animals, on Fukushima Prefecture in northern Japan, the oceans, and North America and Europe and beyond, has manifested itself. And all I can say is that the book that Dr. Alexei Yablokov from Russia put together with a lot of other Russian scientists from 500 research papers they produced on the after effects of Chernobyl, which Yablokov translated 500 articles in Russian into English in order to be able to write this book. And it's called Chernobyl, Consequences of the Catastrophe for People and the Environment, and it's free on the internet, and I recommend that everyone listening, if they're interested, download it as a PDF. You can also buy it published and bound and everything. I believe it's $7 or $8, which is very, very reasonable. That's just the cost of producing it and mailing it. And Professor Yablokov, his name is Y-A-B-L-O-K-O-V, Prime Minister Yeltsin's science advisor. Dr. Yablokov is also a member of the Russian Academy of Sciences, and he also was scientific advisor for other presidents and prime ministers of Russia. And, well, on top of that, the Russians really are more familiar with nuclear disasters than probably any other country, because they had the experience of Chernobyl, which was a global nuclear disaster, and because my mother was exposed to that in 1986, she lived in Santa Barbara, California, and most of the world was contaminated, all of it eventually, by Chernobyl. She developed Alzheimer's disease when she was about 46 years old. And I have, I'm not just a scientist, I love all living things. I'm a naturalist. I've done a lot of the equivalent of a master's degree in wildlife studies at UC Berkeley. And I'm really a very broad environmentalist. So I probably notice things or understand things more than most other scientists, although there are some who have also specialized in radiation technologies and disasters in order to warn the public. And, of course, Dr. Yablokov would be one of the very fine scientists who's working very hard to alert the global community. Now, the effects of Chernobyl will be dwarfed very soon or already by the effects of Fukushima. And the emissions from Fukushima into the atmosphere, into the ocean, will not end in our lifetimes, Christina. I'm overwhelmed every day when I think about the implications and the long-term effects of this disaster. I really do feel very bad about it. And on the other hand, I'm very pleased that I can help and I can contribute to the global understanding and also help people learn how to protect themselves and their family and their children and babies. But this is pretty overwhelming even for me. And thank you so much for being one of the bright lights that I can contact and work with and communicate with, because it's something you just can't deal with it all on your own. You've got to have friends in this business, or you would just not make it, I guess. But to compare Chernobyl to Fukushima or Fukushima to Chernobyl, we know from air filters taken from cars in Japan in the months after the disaster that the Fukushima emissions and radioactive pollution, nuclear pollution of the planet, is at least 300 times that of Chernobyl. I have contacted I've been in contact with 6 people. One is a woman who is over 50, and the other 5 are males under 50, healthy, buff. There's no reason for them to be sick. And all 6 of these people had thyroiditis within 9 months of the Fukushima disaster. And that would be from the radioactive iodine that was emitted in the emissions major global nuclear disaster, which is affecting all living things.
We try to use as much Chernobyl data as possible to try to extrapolate or predict what's coming down the road, and what you have said, and a number of other researchers and people in the nuclear industry that I've spoken with have said, is they are absolutely shocked at some of the numbers of contamination, and actually have been disbelieving when I've shared some of this information with some of them. 20,000 becquerels per kilogram found in earthworms that were 200 kilometers away from the Fukushima plant. We know that the Chernobyl reactor was half the size of the smallest reactor at Fukushima, that was reactor 1. And the 300 times figure that we're using, how are you extrapolating the data to come to that number in case anyone else wants to duplicate that? Is that just based on the air filter studies?
Yes, that's a good question, because people should know how that comparison was made. I've done about 20 speaking tours in Japan between 2000 and 2010. And I also worked on educating the public, the lawyers in Japan who were representing the survivors of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, who have never won a lawsuit since 1945 against the Japanese government, and all they were asking for was health benefits. And Dr. Busby produced a very, very excellent new risk analysis or risk model for the European Union, for the Green Party, on radiation exposure. And it's the first time there's been a new RIP model that has been used since 1945, produced by the U.S. military. When I worked with him, I learned a lot. He's very, very clever. And what he did was he got air filters from cars all over northern Japan, especially between Tokyo and Fukushima. People sent him air filters out of their cars, and they also sent the specs on the engines in the cars. So he was able to measure the radiation on the air filter and then calculate the volume of air going through the car engine, and that was helpful in determining the concentration in the atmosphere. That's where the air was coming from that went through the car engine. And he calculated from those numbers. Of course, it's an estimate, but nobody's denied it, and nobody's done any other estimates that I know of. And he reported the radiation on the air filters indicated that it was at least the equivalent of 300 Chernobyls.